check. Just make sure all my settings are correct. 1 second. Okay, that'd be better. That's better for the audio. So now the audio is going to be really clear. Just give me 1 more second and we will be set up here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Good. Okay, we're ready to roll, gang. So nice to see everybody. We're in at Rest Plaza, as I mentioned before, and we're going to be giving the regular class, maybe a little shorter today, but let's chant the holy names first, or at least chant Jai Radhamadava first. Ready? Jaya Radhamadava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radhamadava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Malava Girivardhari Gopi Jana Malava Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Malaba Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jayarada Madhava Kunya Bihari Jayarada Madhava Kunya Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvadapacharya Sutata Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Sabaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharshila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnavarindi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Friends, say kaho. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrindiki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopikapatnath Shyam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturanam Ki Jai Goswami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrindiki Ki Jai Go Premananda Hari Hari Go. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premananda. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhudle. Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharya. Devashesha Shunyavadi Paschat Tejatari. So we're going to start class now. Omaganatimidandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshuram Veritam Yene Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada so kindly opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we'll have a really short class today, probably only about a half an hour now, and then a few questions after that. Because for several reasons, we're on the road. Another reason is this battery doesn't last a long time in this high-powered computer. So let's go on to the Caitanya Caritamrta. We are reading about Madhavendra Puri's devotional service. So we just finished with the section of Madhavendra Puri installing Gopal on Govardhan Hill, and now Madhavendra Puri is in Ramuna with the deity of Shirachora Gopinath, and he's desiring to taste the sweet rice offered to Shirachora Gopinath. Why? Because he wants to make it for Gopal. And at this particular juncture, he is feeling embarrassed that he wants to eat the food before it's offered, but his actual reason is to serve his deities. Not for sense gratification like we would be thinking, when can I eat? I hope it's offered. So he is thinking of Krishna's pleasure. So then he just basically ran away from the temple because he was feeling guilty, went to the marketplace, and was sitting down in a stall in the marketplace, and we're going to hear about that now. So let's continue. Ayachita vriti puri virakta udasa ayachita palakana nahi upavasa. Madhavendra Puri avoided begging. Oops. He was completely unattached and indifferent to material things. If without his begging someone offered him some food, he would eat. Otherwise, he would fast. And Prabhupada explains, this is the Paramahamsa stage, the highest stage for a sannyasi. A sannyasi can beg from door to door just to collect food, but a Paramahamsa who has taken ayachita vritti or agajara gata vritti does not ask anyone for food. If someone offers him food voluntarily, he eats. Ayachita vritti means being accustomed to refrain from begging, and ajagara vritti indicates one who is compared to a python, the big snake that makes no effort to acquire food, but rather allows food to come automatically within his mouth. I'm definitely not at that stage. In other words, a Paramahamsa simply engages exclusively in the service of the Lord without caring even for eating or sleeping. It was stated about the six Goswamis, Nidrahara Vihara Kadi Nivijato. In the Paramahamsa stage, one conquers the desire for sleep, food, and sense gratification. One remains a humble, meek mendicant engaged in the service of the Lord day and night. Madhavendra Puri had attained this Paramahamsa stage. So we mentioned before there's different stages of sannyas. There's Bahoda, Kutichak, Paravatakacharya, and Paramahamsa, beginning with living at your same village and getting food from your family, then begging door to door for food, and then finally preaching, and then sometimes asking for food if necessary, and the Paramahamsa not even doing anything for them. So Madhavendra Puri was on that stage. Premamritek tripta Shuddha Krishna nahi bade Shira Jaila Ahimane aparade. A Paramahamsa like Madhavendra Puri is always satisfied in the loving service of the Lord. Material hunger and thirst cannot impede his activities. When he desired to taste a little sweet rice offered to the deity, he considered that he had committed an offense by desiring to eat what was being offered to the deity. And Prabhupada comments on this. It is advisable that food being offered to the deity be covered when taken from the kitchen to the deity room. In that way, others may not see it. Those who are not accustomed to following the advanced regulated devotional principles may desire to eat the food, but that is an offense. Therefore, one should not be given a chance, or no one should be given a chance to even see it. However, when it is brought before the deity, it must be uncovered. Seeing the food uncovered before the deity, Madhavendra Puri desired to taste a little of it so that he could prepare a similar sweet rice for his dopa. Madhavendra Puri was so strict, however, that he considered this to be an offense. Consequently, he left the temple without saying anything to anyone. The Paramahamsa is therefore called Vijita Sadguna. He must conquer the six material qualities: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Matsarya, and Shuddha Trishna, which means lust, anger, greed, illusion, enviousness, hunger, and thirst. That's the quality of someone who's going to be Guru or Paramahamsa. Gramero Shunya Hatevasi Karena Kirtana Eta Pujari Karaila Takure Shayana. Madhavendra Puri left the temple and sat down in the village marketplace, which was vacant. Sitting there, he began to chant. In the meantime, the temple priest laid the deity down to rest. This is going to be a very interesting story. Although Madhavendra Puri was not interested in eating and sleeping, his interest in chanting the Maha Mantra was as acute as if he were an aspiring transcendentalist rather than a Paramahamsa. In other words, one of the symptoms of a Paramahamsa is that he's very, very enthusiastic to chant. He's not thinking that I've achieved the higher platform of devotional service or the highest platform of devotional service, and I don't have to chant. This means that even in the Paramahamsa stage, one cannot give up chanting. Haridas, Thakur, and the Goswamis were all engaged in chanting a fixed number of rounds. Therefore, chanting on beads is very important for everyone, even though one may be a Paramahamsa. This chanting can be executed anywhere, either inside or outside the temple. Madhavendra Puri even sat down in a vacant marketplace to perform his chanting. As stated by Srinivasacharya in his prayers to the Goswamis, Anagana Nativi, a Paramahamsa devotee is always engaged in chanting and rendering loving service to the Lord. Chanting the Lord's holy names and engaging in service are identical. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th Canto, 5th Chapter, text 23. There are 9 kinds of devotional service: hearing, shravanam, chanting, kirtanam, remembering, Vishnu smaranam, serving, padasevanam, worship of the deity, archanam, praying, vandanam, carrying out orders, dasham, serving him as a friend, sakyam, and sacrificing everything for the Lord, atmani vedanam. Although each process appears distinct, when one is situated on the absolute platform, he can see that they are identical. For instance, hearing is as good as chanting, and remembering is as good as chanting, as good as chanting or hearing. Similarly, engaging in deity worship is as good as chanting, hearing, or remembering. The devotee is expected to accept all 9 processes of devotional service, but even if one process is properly executed, he can still attain the highest perfection, Paramahamsa, and go back home, back to Godhead. So, of course, the principle of Shravanam, Kirtanam, or hearing and chanting, is essential to be able to execute the other activities of devotional service, especially Shravanam, because if you don't hear, how will you know how to serve Krishna? I mean, that's a no-brainer. Nija Pratyakari Pujari Karila Shayana Swapne Takorahasi Palila Vachana. Finishing his daily duties, the priest went to take rest. In a dream, he saw the Gopinath deity come to talk to him, and he spoke as follows. This is so exciting. Uttha Pujari Kara Dwara Vimochana Shiraeka Rakiyachi Sannyasi Karana. O priest, please get up and open the door of the temple. I have kept 1 pot of sweet rice for the sannyasi, Madhavendra Puri. Dadhara Anchale Jaka Ekakshirahaya Tumara na jani lata, amara maya. This pot of sweet rice is just behind my cloth curtain. You did not see it because of my tricks. Madhavapuri sannyasi ache hateti vasina taha ketahe kshira shigra deha lanya. A sannyasi named Madhavendra is sitting in the vacant marketplace. Please take this pot of sweet rice behind me and deliver it to him. Swapna deki pujarayuti karila vichara snana kare kapata kuli mukta kaila dwara. Awakening from the dream, the priest immediately rose from bed and thought it wise to take a bath before entering the deity's room. He then opened the temple door. Tataranchalatale Pailase Kshira Stanale Pikshira Lana Ahila Badura. According to the deity's directions, the priest found the pot of sweet rice behind the cloth curtain. He removed the pot and mopped up the place which had been kept it. He then went out of the temple. Waradiya Grame Gela Se Kshira Lana Hate hate bule madhava puri ke chaginda. Closing the door of the temple, he went to the village with a pot of sweet rice. He called out in every stall in search of Madhavendra Puri. Shiralaha e Yaranama Madhava Puri Tomalagi Gopinatha Shiral Kaila Churi. Holding the pot of sweet rice, the priest called out, "Will he whose name is Madhavendra Puri please come and take this pot?" Gopinath has stolen this pot of sweet rice for you. Prabhupada says the difference between the absolute truth and the relative truth is explained here. Lord Gopinath have openly declared herein that he is a thief. He had stolen the pot of sweet rice, and this was not kept a secret because his act of stealing is a source of great transcendental bliss. In the material world, theft is criminal, but in the spiritual world, the Lord's stealing is a source of transcendental bliss. Mundane rascals who cannot understand the absolute nature of the personality of Godhead sometimes call Lord Shri Krishna immoral, but they do not know that his seemingly immoral activities, which are not kept secret, afford pleasure to the devotees. Not understanding the transcendental behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these rascals slur his character and immediately fall into the category of miscreants, rascals, lowest among men, demons, and those whose knowledge is taken away by the illusory energy. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Namam Duskutino Muda Prapatinte Naradama, Mayaya Paratyagyana, Asturam Bhavam Ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, text 15. Mundane rascals cannot understand that whatever Krishna does, being absolute in nature, is all good. This quality of the Lord is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 33rd chapter, text 29. One may consider certain acts of a supremely powerful person to be immoral by mundane calculations, but this is not actually the case. For example, the sun absorbs water from the surface of the earth, but it does not absorb water only from the sea. It also absorbs water from filthy sewers and ditches containing urine and other impure substances. The sun is not polluted by absorbing such water. Rather, the sun makes the filthy place pure. If a devotee approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead for an immoral or improper purpose, he nonetheless becomes purified. The Lord does not become infected. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 29th chapter, text 15, it is stated that if one approaches the Supreme Lord, even out of lust, anger, or fear, kamam, krodam, bhayam, he is purified. The gopis, being young girls, approached Krishna because he was a beautiful young boy. From the external point of view, they approached the Lord out of lust, and the Lord danced with them at midnight. From the mundane point of view, these activities may appear immoral because a married or unmarried young girl cannot leave home to mix with a young boy and dance with him. Although this is immoral from the mundane viewpoint, the activities of the gopis are accepted as the highest form of worship because it was Lord Krishna whom they approached with lusty desires in the dead of night. But these things cannot be understood by non-devotees. One must understand Krishna in proper truth. One should use his common sense and consider that if simply by chanting Krishna's holy name one is purified, how can the person Krishna be immoral? Unfortunately, mundane fools are accepted as educational leaders and are offered exalted posts for teaching irreligious principles to the general populace. This is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 5th chapter, text 31. Anda yatanda upaniyamanaha. Blind men are trying to lead other blind men. Due to the immature understanding of such rascals, common men should not discuss Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. A non-devotee should not even discuss his stealing sweet rice for his devotees. It is warned that one should not even think about these things. Although Krishna is the purest of the pure, mundane people thinking of Krishna's pastimes that appear immoral themselves become polluted. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore never discussed Krishna's dealings with the gopis. He used to discuss these dealings only with three confidential friends. He never discussed Rasa Lila publicly, as the professional reciters do, although they do not understand Krishna or the nature of the audience. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu encouraged the public chanting of the holy name on a huge scale for as many hours as possible. So there's several things to be understood from this. First of all, Krishna never danced with other people's wives in the middle of the night because everybody belongs to Krishna. And we're all Prakriti in relationship with Krishna. And also Krishna had married all those young girls when Lord Brahma stole all the cowherd boys and calves. Krishna took the place of all the cowherd boys and calves. And that's when the marriages took place. So Krishna actually married all the girls. Plus, there's no question of those girls belonging to their husbands because Krishna owns everything, including the girls. Everyone is Krishna's wife or property. That's another point. Another point is that when Krishna steals sweet rice, it belonged to him anyway. It was offered to him. So there's no question, any problem with him stealing sweet rice that was offered to him anyway. So many different explanations of this. Next verse. Shiralana suke tumi karaha bhakshane tomasama bhakyovan nahi tribhuvane. The priest continued, would the sannyasi whose name is Madhavendra Puri please come and take this pot of sweet rice and enjoy this prasadam with great happiness? You are the most fortunate person within these three worlds. Here's an example of the personal benediction by Krishna's immoral activity. By Gopinath stealing for his devotee, the devotee becomes the most fortunate person within the three worlds. Thus, even the Lord's criminal activities make his devotee the most fortunate person. How can a mundane rascal understand the pastimes of Krishna and judge whether he is moral or immoral? Since Krishna is the absolute truth, there are no mundane distinctions such as moral and immoral. Whatever he does is good. This is the real meaning of God is good. He is good in all circumstances because he is transcendental, outside the jurisdiction of this material world. Therefore, Krishna can be understood only by those who are already living in the spiritual world. This is corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita. Vamchiyo vyavacharena bhakti yogena sevato sagunan samatijayatan Rama Bhuyaya Kalpato. One who engages in full devotional service unfailing in all circumstances at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. One who is engaged in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord is already situated in the spiritual world. Rama Bhuyaya Kalpate. In all circumstances, his activities and dealings with Krishna are transcendental and thus not understandable by mundane moralists. It is therefore better not to discuss such activities among mundane people. It is better to give them the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, so they will be gradually purified and then come to understand the transcendental activities of Krishna. Etashuni Purigoshani Parichaya Dila Suratiya Pujarutanre Dandavat Kaila. Hearing this invitation, Madhavendra Puri came out and identified himself. The priest then delivered a pot of sweet rice and offered his obeisances, falling flat before him. So Prabhupada explains that Brahman is not supposed to offer his obeisances by falling flat before anyone because a Brahman is considered to be in the highest caste. However, when a Brahmana sees a devotee, he offers his dandavats. This Brahmin priest did not ask Madhavendra Puri whether he was a Brahmin, but when he saw that Madhavendra Puri was such a bona fide devotee that Krishna would even steal from him, he immediately understood the position of the saint. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kiva Vipra, Kiva Nyashu, Shuja, Kene, I, Ye Krishna Tattva Veda, say Guru Hai. That's from the Chaitanya Caritamrta Chapter 8, 128. Had the Brahmin priest been an ordinary Brahmin, Gopinath would not have talked with him in a dream. Since the deity spoke to both Madhavendra Puri and the Brahmin priest in dreams, practically speaking, they were on the same platform. However, because Madhavendra Puri was a senior sannyasi Vaishnava, Paramahansa, the priest immediately fell flat before him and offered obeisances. So, of course, as I mentioned before, Madhavendra Puri, being dressed as a sannyasi, one could not tell whether he was a Brahmin or not, because in those days, the sannyasis cut off their sikas, and they also got rid of their Brahmin threads. So you really couldn't tell someone's a Purva ashram, that means previous ashram. But still, because he was a pure devotee, that's why he was offered respect. And that's the point. Regardless of one's body, gender, nationality, race, if one is a pure devotee of the Lord, that person should be offered respect and accepted to give one guidance. So, Shirara Vartanta Tanre Kahila Pujari Shuni Prema Vishtahaila Sri Madhava Puri. When the story about the pot of sweet rice was explained to him in detail, Sri Madhavendra Puri at once became absorbed in ecstatic love of Krishna. Nemadeki Sevakahi Aya Vismita Krishna Yayan Haravasha Aya Yatochita. Upon seeing the ecstatic loving symptoms manifest in Madhavendra Puri, the priest was struck with wonder. He could understand why Krishna had become so much obliged to him, and he saw that Krishna's action was befitting. The Prophet explains the devotee can bring Krishna perfectly under his control. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, text 3. Ajita-chitopyasi taistrilokyam. Krishna is never conquered by anyone, but a devotee can conquer him through devotional service. As stated in the Brahma Samhita 5:43, one cannot understand Krishna simply by reading Vedic literature. Although all Vedic literature is meant for understanding Krishna, one cannot understand Krishna without being a lover of Krishna. Therefore, along with the reading of Vedic literature, Swadhyaya, one must engage in devotional worship of the deity, Archana Vidhi. Together, these will enhance the devotee's transcendental understanding of devotional service. Shravanadi Shuddhachite Kariye Udaya. That's from the Madhya 22:107. Love of Godhead is dormant within everyone's heart, and if one simply follows the standard process of devotional service, it is awakened. But foolish mundane people who simply read about Krishna mistakenly think that he is immoral or criminal. Actually, now we're going to take questions. We're going to end a little early because my battery is going to run out in a few minutes. This is a special computer. So we'll take questions from all of you. Hold on a second when we stop sharing. and allow you all to unmute yourselves and ask questions. As I mentioned before, we are on the road right now, so we only have a short time, and we're at the park rest plaza. So who has a question? Oh, you have a question? We have one of our local people have a question. Speak loudly so they can.
Sure. My first question is, what would a devotee who at one point was more drawn to chanting the holy name do to re-engage or reignite their enthusiasm in chanting?
Okay. So the question was, a devotee at one point was more drawn to chanting the holy name, and right now they're not drawn anymore,
Less.
or they left.
Less drawn, not so drawn.
Less drawn. So to become more drawn to chanting the holy name, one has to figure out why they're chanting. There's something we call a sankalpa. Sankalpa means intention. We can do something for some period of time, yeah, but unless we understand why we're doing, what the purpose is, what we're hoping to accomplish, then it becomes ritualistic after a while. It's like if you're doing deity worship or something like that, and if you're not thinking of why you're doing, what you're doing, who you're doing it for, what your ultimate goal is, all those things called the sankalpa, actually, then it becomes dry. So what I do is before I chant, I try to do it before I chant every day, I try to think, why am I chanting today? What's the purpose? What am I asking Krishna for? Because chanting is praying. And then Prabhupada said that one has to be crying. Actually, one of my godbrothers also said, Govinda Maharaj, he said, we're opening up a crying ashram. One has to cry for Krishna. So you have to really be requesting something from Krishna, like the Sanskrit verse Lord Chaitanya gives us. Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Vishnu Bhavambhava. O son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I am caught in this horrible ocean of birth and death. Please fix me up as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. So I'm not saying that has to be your intention. We may be praying, or sometimes I pray, please let me serve Prabhupada, and please Prabhupada, or I'll be praying for some other reason. Please let this rascal disciple, whoever is, become better at Krishna consciousness or come back to Krishna consciousness. My disciples give me a lot of opportunities to pray. Thank God. I'm not so thank God. Anyway, so yeah, if you have a sankalpa, you can get back into it. Why am I chanting? Or, some devotees get back into chanting when in the final stage of life they develop some terminal illness. I've seen that with some of my godbrothers. And then they go to Vrindavan, they really get absorbed in chanting. So there has to be a reason. Without a reason, unless one is, one's an absolute pure devotee, oh, Krishna, and you see Krishna's pastimes in front of your eyes, you really do need a sankalpa or a reason. Chant. Unless you're having so much like taste that's unbelievable, you really need a sankalpa or a reason to chant. Good question. Okay, we're at 17% battery, down to 16%. Reduces that to battery, that crazy. Okay, anyone else have a question online here?
Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances.
Okay, Rakesh. So what's your question?
Gurudev, is Vyasadeva Vishnu Tattva?
Vyasadeva is Jiva Tattva. He's an empowered incarnation. There's two types of incarnations. Actually, we were talking earlier today with some devotees about that. There are Jiva Tattva incarnations, which are called Shaktavesh avatars, and then there's Vishnu Tattva incarnations. And so Vyasadeva is Jiva Tattva. He's an empowered expansion or incarnation of the Lord. And then you also have Lord Buddha. We were also speaking about Lord Buddha earlier today. Lord Buddha is an empowered incarnation. Prabhupada at one point said Parashuram is an empowered incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Jiva Tattva. And as far as the Vishnu Tattva incarnations, Matsya, Kurma, Nrsingadev, Lord Ram, these are all Vishnu Tattva incarnations. Whereas Vyasadeva is a Jiva soul, that's the category, like you and I are Jiva souls. But Vyasadeva is a special Jiva. So we're not saying that we're going to become Vyasadeva. You could become Vyasadeva. Okay. So here's a question. What if your desires are mundane? It's a good question. Then, akama sarvakama mokshakama dharati tivrena bhakti yogena yujeta purusham param. Then you pray to Krishna for those mundane desires and lessons. You're not praying, hopefully, by dear Krishna, give me some more marijuana or something like that. That's fine. I mean, you actually have some people praying to Krishna for husbands or wives. Give me a, it was like there was someone who was praying, Krishna, give me a wife with a light disposition. I forget the exact story right now. It was kind of go down a movie or something like that. So, yeah, Krishna doesn't say you're a demon for having mundane desires. So the statement in the Vedic literature says, or the Bhagavatam is, whether one is free of material desires, full of material desires, or desires of liberation, one should approach Krishna Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param with enthusiasm. Tivra Bhakti means like enthusiasm, forceful devotional service. Good question. Figure out what your desire is and approach Krishna for that particular desire. That is quickly running out. So one more question quickly, and if we get cut off, it ain't my fault. It's not that I don't like you, but it's just a question that my battery doesn't like you. So sankalpa for a good japa, because it makes me feel good, will not be considered good. Yeah, whatever gets you to chant attentively. I'm not saying it's the highest platform. I'm not saying it's something that I aspire for, but whatever. Just get yourself to chant attentively. Like Valmiki, before he became Valmiki, was chanting Mara 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 and became Ram 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 Ram, and he became a pure devotee. He was chanting just to get free from the bad karma that he was going to experience for his mundane activities.
Mm. Gurudev, where are you?
I think Gurudev battery has died. You have to just end the meeting now.
Okay.
I am the host, so I'm ending it. Haribol.